Assemblymember Calderon.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and members. And I got to say that I'm happy to finally authored a bill that allowed me to come and be present in front of you today in this JETI committee. But I'd like to start off by accepting the committee's amendments as reflected in the analysis as author's amendments and thank the committee and the staff for their hard work on AB 1675. AB 1675 will enact the Entrepreneur in Residence Act of 2014, which will establish the State Entrepreneur in Residence Program within the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, or better known as GoBiz. The bill would authorize the Director of GoBiz to appoint entrepreneurs and small business persons each year to serve as an entrepreneur in residence on a voluntary basis within a state agency, department, or commission. The program will utilize the expertise of private sector entrepreneurs to help make the state government activities and practices more streamlined and accessible. And because we do have a motion in a second, essentially what the bill does is it creates a program, 10 spots within state agencies and state government will replace a entrepreneur that's an established entrepreneur to help us become more efficient, help government be more efficient, and more streamlined, because these are people that are innovators or go-getters and they see a problem and they fix it, and that's essentially what we want to create within these state agencies and allow an opportunity for our state agencies to have these resources to say, hey, what could we do to maybe save money, or what could we do to better utilize our time and our resources? And that's essentially what this bill is intended to get. We're starting off with a focused view of 10 positions, but we're hoping to grow it. There are 2 other states that have already started this program, but 12 total that are trying to do this program. It's a great opportunity for the state of California to do this, and I respectfully request an aye vote. And with me in attendance as my witnesses, I have Ingrid Vandervelt, Dell's Entrepreneur in Residence, as well as Jack Crawford from Velocity Venture Capital.
Go ahead.
Great. Hi, well, thank you. Hello, Chair Medina and Vice Chair Mansour, members of the committee. My name is Ingrid Vanderveld. I'm the Entrepreneur in Residence for Dell. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of AB 1675 and the Entrepreneur in Residence for California state agencies. Joining me in support of the bill is Jack Crawford, a California entrepreneur, and I would like to thank Assemblyman Ian Calderon for putting this together. I'm enormously proud, having built 2 of my companies here in California, to see this happening. So to just give you a little bit of background on myself, just to provide a little bit of context so that as we go forward I can be helpful to you, I am here to do that. So as background, I am a lifelong entrepreneur. I've built and sold a number of different companies in a number of different industries: data mining, data analytics, social media. My last 2 were green energy companies. I'm a former business television host with CNBC, and I'm one of 10 global entrepreneurs that sits on the United Nations Foundation Global Entrepreneurship Council. I launched and run a $130 million fund for Dell, and I oversee entrepreneurial initiatives globally for the company. And it was important for me to be here. As these guys know, as soon as we're done here, I've got to hop on a plane and go into Canada, actually, because Dell is in strong support of this initiative here in California. We have a lot of activity going on here in the state, over 100 locations and 3 major facilities here. And entrepreneurship in California is just enormously popular in the entrepreneurial community. Success in the state is very important to us. And California is ranked number 6 for State Entrepreneurship Index, a measurement of core economic values by the University of Nebraska. And then I think many of you know that Forbes has certainly ranked Silicon Valley as one of the hottest centers for entrepreneurship and venture capital. Forbes also said, though, that while California is one of the best states for doing business, it's ranked 39th overall. And one of the commentary around that was that we need to work on improvements in the regulatory environment. And this is where we think that an entrepreneur in residence opportunity here in the state can be very, very helpful to that process. So as an example, when I joined Dell now about 3 years ago and worked with Michael Dell, I came on board essentially with this large established institution to figure out how could we open up opportunities to help these entrepreneurs and small business owners that companies like Dell fundamentally believe if we're going to get our global economy turned around, it's not going to be the large companies that do it. It's going to be the entrepreneurs and small business owners who do it. And we want to do our part to help see them be successful because they're the ones going out and creating the jobs that we so badly need. And so when I was brought on board and I started working with Michael and the executive leadership team and started launching programs at Dell, within 6 days of launch of my initial programs, we were able to more than double the results of what the internal financial teams at Dell thought we would do over a 4-year time period. And that was simply because Michael gave me the opportunity to bring the innovative thinking, the fresh thinking, and really strategize on how can we make it easier to do business together. And we see that same sort of idea possible to bring into the policy environment. And so with that, we do support the entrepreneur in residence in government to bring this innovative thinking into government and create advocates, really, for government and for collaborating and to figure out how can we do things better here in the state of California? How can we make it easier to do business here? How can we make it easier to create jobs here in the state that we love so much? So we support AB 1675. It has 3 objectives. Number 1, to provide better outreach by state government to entrepreneurs and small business owners. Number 2, strengthen coordination and interaction between state government and entrepreneurs and small business. And then number 3, make state government programs simpler, easier to access, and more efficient and responsive so that we as entrepreneurs can move as fast as I think we'd all like for us all to try to move. So in conclusion, this is a very simple idea that can have a very powerful impact on the California community. And Chair Medina, members of the committee, I ask for your support in this. Thank you very much. And I'd like to hand it off now to Jack Crawford, who's come to join us today as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Chair Medina, Vice Chair Mansour, and members of the committee, thanks for the opportunity to share some perspective. I'm particularly appreciative of the efforts of the assembly member of Ingrid and her team at Dell and a colleague of mine, Jason Law, as we collaborated on some aspects of research and other support for today's testimony. I'm clearly here to support the passage of AB 1675. I want to just talk for a second about my background so you know where I'm coming from. I have a 10-year operating background as an entrepreneur in the Sacramento area. In 2005, I launched Velocity Venture Capital with the idea of bringing some additional venture capital to the Sacramento area. And then in 2011, I was one of 35 people from around the world that was selected as part of the Kauffman Fellows program. This is a leadership program that allows us to go to innovation economies literally around the world. We spent some time in Palo Alto. We spent time in Austin together. We spent time in New York and in Shanghai. So we got an opportunity to look at best practices for building innovation economies and how various organizations are accessing innovation outside of their 4 walls. So entrepreneurs in residence programs may sound a bit foreign to sort of the government industry sector, but it's something that's been widely adopted in a number of industry sectors. So I thought I'd just use my time to basically talk about those so you can see how it's working. A venture capital firm, as an example, might want to learn a little bit more about industry sectors, trends around mobility or trends with healthcare and technology. So they'll bring in someone that effectively provides them with a bridge to that innovation ecosystem. Universities look at ways to connect the R&D that's happening within their 4 walls out into the business community. You may be familiar with all the things that UC Davis is doing to reach out into the Sacramento business community. Corporations, Dell and many others, AT&T, Samsung, you name it, are effectively doing interesting things, everything from accelerating and mentoring startup companies to looking at ways to partner with innovators outside of their 4 walls. At the end of the day, if you look around the globe, what all organizations are doing are recognizing that there's innovation happening outside their 4 walls that's very relevant to what's going on inside their 4 walls. This is an opportunity for government to effectively get greater visibility to innovation to help support some of the innovation opportunity areas inside government, streamlining process, looking at how to embrace mobility for serving the public in a better way. So that's why I'm excited about this. I believe that this is the kind of thing that can lead to innovations that positively impact people's lives, and government can follow the model that's being followed, that's being adopted by corporations, universities, and certainly venture capital firms. So AB 1675, envision an entrepreneur coming in and helping to identify areas of innovation within government, and then communicating that out to the entrepreneurial community so that innovations are taking place in the very areas where they're needed. So we need this sort of bridge of communication between government and the entrepreneurial community, and that will help with on-ramping and onboarding new innovations into government in a more streamlined way. I grew up in Sacramento, and I can tell you there's two very separate and distinct ecosystems. You have the general view that government is slow-moving, 9 to 5, doesn't move, right? The entrepreneurial community moves way too fast, right? They're crazy out there, and they're high risk. And it reminds me of a comedian who talked about regardless of what speed you're driving, the people who were driving slower than you were bozos, and the people who were going faster than you were maniacs, right? You know, it's like, whoa, look at that bozo. Whoa, look at that maniac, right? It just doesn't. The point is that we need to sync up the speeds, and I don't think that government officials or startups are bozos or maniacs. I think that there's an opportunity to bring the pace of innovation together because government clearly moves faster than many people say, and I think entrepreneurs move a bit slower than the general public think that they're moving. But there's a pacing issue, and it's policy like this that allows us to bring those two ecosystems together for the good of the public. So just in closing, what I've seen is government play an amazing role with effectively the internet and other life-changing technologies and be involved in the first part of the innovation cycle. I see China and India and Israel investing at a rapid pace, and now it might be just the time for the U.S. to look at a new model of innovation and to look at an active embracement of innovation to support public good. So I like the idea of, in a sense, a bridge between the entrepreneurial community and the government community, and I applaud the efforts of this team, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Mansour?
Yes. Is there a timeline of 6 months, a year, or whatever, when this is going to come back for review by us or any other body?
So the the proposed structure is that the entrepreneur in residence would come in for a 2-year period. And then at that time, there would be a review, and you would assess, if you want to go forward with new EIRs or if the program has not been successful, which is not what we imagine, but after a 2-year time period. Thank you.
Mr. Pettis?
Mr. Chair, thank you for bringing this bill forward, Mr. Calderon, and I appreciate your witnesses being here as well. I was just sitting back thinking about the potential here, perhaps even a connection with the iHub structure that we have here throughout the state of California, especially in areas where we have high levels of unemployment. Specifically in my area, for example, I'm way down south, Riverside County, Imperial County, where we have double-digit numbers when it comes to unemployment. But we also have an iHub there in the Cathedral City, Desert Hot Springs, Palm Springs area. We're looking at putting one together in the east side, where it's more individuals that are service workers, farm workers, but yet we're trying to figure out ways as to how we could move them towards a position, workforce that perhaps would allow them to earn a higher income and gain more skill sets. But at the same time, we have a new iHub now in the Riverside area. All that is to say, though, that I think this is a great idea, and I'd like to see maybe perhaps a connection with the effort also linked through the iHub system. We finally codified the iHubs last year, and as well, when individuals want to entities that are within the iHubs are working towards building their businesses. They also have put together a strategic plan, right? Perhaps that's something in which there could be some sort of correlation, some sort of connection with your entity or this bill, for example. I'd love to have Del, yourself as well, come down to the district. Perhaps there's individuals out there that would appreciate your skill set, your expertise, your knowledge. And with that, I just want to say I support this bill. I'd like to be a co-author and consider coming to the Coachella Valley.
Right. Thank you, Assembly Mayor, and that's a great idea, and that's absolutely something that we can look into, and I'd love to work with you on, as well as with Del. And other things to look at too is we talk a lot about how do we make these agencies more streamlined so that business can be more successful here in California. But think about just EDD and the issues that we have with EDD, and putting an entrepreneur in that department and being able to say, hey, this is what you guys are doing, and these are some suggestions to help you maybe be more efficient in being able to respond to constituents faster, and figuring out how we can get a system that's online that is really interactive, and so everybody's called ED. I was a field representative and I did casework, and I know when you call EDD, it can be difficult at times because they have a lot of people that are calling. But having an entrepreneur, somebody who's an innovator, somebody who thinks outside the box, can come up with solutions to help them be more successful. That helps everybody in our districts throughout the state.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Daly.
I want to salute the author and the supporters of the bill for this proposal. The state needs ideas like this, and I have a feeling this will be successful in the short run and the long run. Question about the 40-hour commitment. The entrepreneur in residence will be a volunteer, presumably has some type of income from somewhere. But the 40-hour commitment, is this per month or per year? How will tell us a little bit more about that?
It's actually a 16-hour per week commitment and these are the proposed amendments.
Okay, excuse me.
So these are amendments that we did change.
16 hours per week is the proposal. Okay, right. I wanted to clarify that. Again, this is a fabulous idea, and I'd like to be a co-author. In fact, we talked yesterday about that, so I hope I can be added on as a co-author.
Thank you, Mr. Daly.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Okay. Mr. Fox.
First, again, my commendations. I think it's an excellent idea. I'd like to be requested to be a co-author. Ms. Vanderbilt, in addition to communication between the government and businesses, what are some of the ideas you see might actually be coming out of the committee? And that's jumping ahead several steps, but just out of curiosity.
Of entrepreneurs that might come in. So it's interesting because we actually sat with GoBiz yesterday and started already brainstorming some ideas. So if I were the entrepreneur in residence coming in, the first one in, my first stop, of course, we're proposing that it happens in the GoBiz office, would be to in fact sit down and look at it from the perspective of the state in terms of what are the lowest hanging fruit, where again, if we ease up something here, it's going to generate more revenue for the state. Like what the initial focus would be is let's create a short-term win so that we can show that this is actually working. And it could be any number of things. So let me give you two specific examples. Assemblyman Calderon mentioned that it's been passed in 2 states, in Texas and Virginia. In Virginia, I was just on the phone with the Secretary of Commerce the other day, and what they want to do with their entrepreneur in residence, they're actually trying to generate more attention that Virginia is a good place to do business. And so they want their entrepreneur in residence to actually put together a business plan competition, which is not anything that we had been thinking about, to attract business to the state. And I think it's a wonderful idea. So that's what they're going to do there. You take a state like Michigan, for example, and they have a lot of legacy issues, data issues that for the agriculture farmers that are there, a process to go through a regulatory, get one of the approvals, a process that should take 2 weeks is taking up to 2 years. And so it's stalling a lot of the entrepreneurship there. So the variety of what it can be really is across the board, and what's important for us is to support you in what is going to be most successful for the state. And you mentioned some of the entrepreneurs that are down in Lower California. That was actually one of the issues raised by the GoBiz office, and we said, a fantastic idea would be to solicit an entrepreneur to participate in this process that would represent that community specifically to look at some of those issues. So.
It's interesting. Although I think we want long-term financing for the state as opposed to a mere short-term goal. I'm looking as a businessman myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I agree you're identifying glitches in the system that perhaps would be a no cost and we could fix. So I want to commend you on the whole concept. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to comment that I think it's a great bill. I also asked to be a co-author, and I expect to see and hear great things from the program. So I thank you. Thank you to the Assembly member for bringing it forward, and thank you to Dell for being in support. I would ask for a motion. First by Mr. Pettis, second by Mr. Fox. The motion is do pass with amendments to appropriations. Madam Secretary.
AB 1675, motion do pass with amendments to the Assembly Committee on Appropriations. Medina.
Aye.
Medina, aye. Mansour. Mansour, aye. Campos. Daly.
Aye.
Daly, aye. Fong. Fong, aye. Linder. Melendez. Fox. Fox, aye. V. Manuel Perez. V. Manuel Perez, aye. 6-0.
I will keep it open for add-ons. Thank you very much.
Thank you.